It came, Beena. Go. We are
Hello
live. We
and
are live.
welcome to Moreness. Hello and welcome to Moreness-Culture. Good morning, Syl, and good morning, everyone who is joining us live and will join us recorded on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you guys are watching us. Welcome to Moreness-Culture. This is a place. This is your tiny channel here, which is full of moreness and value. Is trying
Yeah.
to bring moreness and value in everyone's life. This is what we are doing by sharing such wonderful projects we have in line. Okay, right now we are busy with doing capital R reading of books about Don Juan, and the books are of Carlos, which is always like a bit confusing for me because
It's
we
written by Carlos Castaneda about his experiences
yes,
with Don Juan, right?
yes. Thank you so much. It is written by Carlos Castaneda, but books about Don Juan. And this is what we are
Yeah.
doing with the intent of a very clear, very precise intent that we are not just going to read these books, but we are going to connect with Don Juan. We want to connect with
Right.
him. We want to
Right.
communicate with him. And
Because he's a
I
Moreness
have
fellow, right, Beena?
absolutely, absolutely.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
have experienced some sort of connectivity, which I feel happy, and I choose
Yeah.
to have trust that it was a connection with Don Juan. And
Yeah.
now it is going to be, I'm open for more to come and see that because for
You had
me,
an anomaly. Let's be precise. In
yes,
our world, anomalies are part of attunement. It's a very specific thing. It's not, it's an extra to it, it's a bonus to it. It's a long
yes,
story, but you had an anomaly that linked and
yes.
connected you.
Yes.
Yeah.
While
Yeah.
while Sal is busy, I will just give you a brief feedback or like sorry a review. Yes, a revision of
Oh,
that normally which happened to me that me before starting actually doing the capital R reading, but my intent was already set and clear that I'm going to meet on. And I
yeah.
was just walking with my sister on the roof terrace. We have a very big, long roof terrace, and I was just walking. And at the far end of that roof terrace, um, there I was just watching the scene and enjoying and chatting with my sister, and suddenly I felt something coming from my left and going towards right, and I felt that something was about to attack. And when I turned, it was, of course, it was all happening in the friction of time, and it
Oh.
was like when I turned and I saw that there was an eagle, a big eagle, was
And
about to
that's
attack.
anomalous right there. Beena lives in the middle of Karachi, very building, big apartment building and, cars. Or it's, it's right in the heart of the city there. It's not a place where you'd
Yes,
expect to see an eagle.
yes,
Oh,
no, but the
Beena, you're
eagle
calling me for some
actually
reason.
was
I'm going
about
to
to
decline your
attack
call.
me. Okay,
Yeah,
okay, and the eagle
you're
was
calling me.
attacking me.
Huh.
What?
You were calling me, so I declined the call. I'm already
Oh,
talking to you. I love talking to you
wow.
twice, but it's a little tricky.
Okay.
Anyway, so the
Anyway,
eagle comes. Yeah.
a lot of interruption into this, but okay. So
Yeah.
that eagle was attacking on me, but there was a crow behind on top of that eagle, which actually saved me
Yeah.
by
Wow.
hitting that eagle on its head and actually chasing and hushing it away. And this is where I saw. And then
Wow.
the crew came back. Okay, that was really anomalous for me. Yes, okay, it could happen that we were just walking at the time. Maybe the eagle was sitting and having a nest somewhere around maybe whatever the reason. But but after hushing or just yes, throwing that eagle away, the crow came back and sit right there. And I said, thank you. And when I turned back, the crow was looking towards me in a way which I felt that the thank you was accepted.
Wow. Like you're welcome.
Yes. Yes. So
Wow.
that was my first meeting with Don Juan. And this is something, of course, it is very personal. It, of course,
Wow.
for other people could be many reasons for that, and of course, just a coincidence or anything. But I know that I have set my intent, and I had no idea that crows are going to come into this story in this way. big, huge
Yeah,
way.
yeah. And
No
that Don
idea.
Juan says he is a crow. He
Yes,
didn't say I can change into a crow when I
yes,
smoke the smoking mixture, when I go connect with my ally.
exactly,
No, he said
exactly.
I am a crow.
Yes,
His
which I
exact
had
words.
no idea, 0%,
Yeah.
no clue at all.
Yeah.
But this just happened to me. So yes, the world doesn't work the way we assume it does.
Correct. Correct. And the way we think it does, never mind even assume. We just believe without even thinking. We just take it for granted. It's like a fact to us that the world works in a particular way. No, it doesn't.
Yes.
Sorry. No. No, it doesn't. All right, let's get going. We have to end right before 11 o'clock. I have an important call coming out from a producer of a show that they invited me on, some big show, and I'm going to be a guest, and they want to go over. I'm doing it at 12 o'clock, and they want to go over all the technical things of how to do it and all that. So a big deal, fun stuff. Well, wonderful. All right, let's get to. I had to reboot my computer, so it takes the file all the way to the beginning, unfortunately. It doesn't save where we were last. Normally it does. I just leave the window open, but when it reboots, then it starts at the beginning again. But luckily, it's not too big a deal. All right. Chapter 10. And I read a couple of these sections. I read quite a lot, right? Silvery birds. You read about the silvery birds, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
and then the dream. Let me screen share that you can see it, and you can tell me. I don't remember exactly where we ended. He asked me to remember what the crow had said to me. I tried to think about it. My mind played on scores of other things instead. I couldn't concentrate. Is that where we ended?
Uh,
Oh, yeah. It's only a mad dream, unless you remember correctly. I
yeah, this
strained
one
myself to
we read
collect.
because why did their feather look silvery? And then yes, we were.
Right, right. So today I thought of another image in my dream. I think let's start here. So go ahead, Beena.
Okay. Okay. Saturday, 3rd April 1965. Today I thought of another image in my dream about the silvery birds. I remembered seeing a dark mass with myriads of pinholes. In fact, the mass was a dark cluster of little holes. I didn't know why I thought it was soft. As I was looking at it, three birds flew straight at me. One of them made a noise, then all three of them were next to me on the ground. I described the image to Don Juan. He asked me from what direction the birds had come. We read this one. I said I couldn't possibly determine that. He became quite impatient and accused me of being inflexible in my thinking. He said I could very well remember if I tried to, and that I was afraid to let myself become less rigid. He said that I was thinking in terms of men and crows, and that I was neither a man nor a crow at that time, that I wanted to reconnect. He asked me to remember what the crow had said to me. I tried to think about it, but my mind played on scores of other things instead. I couldn't concentrate. Sunday, 4th April 1965. I took a long hike today. It got dark before I reached on Juan's house. I was thinking about the crows when suddenly a very strange thought crossed my mind. It was more like an impression or a feeling than a thought. The bird that had made the noise said they were coming from the north and were going south. And when we met again, they would be coming the same way. I told Juan that I had thought up or maybe remembered. He said, don't think about whether you remembered it or made it up. Such thoughts fit man. Okay. Yeah, you need to scroll, sir.
Oh, sorry. I was getting my windows organized. Yeah. Now.
fit men only. They do not fit crows, especially those you saw, for they are the emissaries of your fate.
Emissaries of
Emissaries
fate.
of your fate. You are already a crow.
Em
You will
it's
never
actually
change that.
emissaries. Sorry, Beena. It's the accents on the E.
Okay.
Emissaries.
Emissaries.
Yeah,
Okay.
emissaries.
Emissaries. The emissaries of your fate. You are already a crow. You will never change that. From now on, the crows will tell you with their flight about every turn of your fate. In which direction did you fly with them? I couldn't know, Don Juan. If you think properly, you will remember. Sit on the floor and tell me the position in which you were when the birds flew to you. Close your eyes and
Yeah.
make a line on the floor. I followed his suggestions and determined the point. Don't open your eyes yet. Proceeded. In which direction did you all fly in relation to that point? I made another mark on the ground. Taking these points of orientation as a reference, Don Juan interpreted the different patterns of flight crows would observe to foretell my personal future of fate. He set up the 4 points of the compass as the axis of the crow's flight. I asked him whether the crows allows followed the cardinal points to tell men's fate. He said he said that the orientation was mine alone. Whatever the crows did in my first meeting, excuse me, in my first meeting with them was of crucial importance. He insisted on my recalling every detail, for the message and the pattern of the emissaries were an individual,
Wow.
personalized matter.
Let me pause right here, Beena. I'll come
Yes,
back to that first meeting. I want to
yes.
comment on that because it's going to come up again later, but I just want to say hello to Otessa. Oh, Otessa! Hello,
Hello,
Otessa. I'm
Tessa.
just happy you've joined us. So, wonderful,
Oh, yes.
wonderful.
Very happy.
I'm hoping at some point Otessa will come on as a guest. I think that would be
Oh,
fabulous.
yes. That
That would
would
be
be
fabulous.
wonderful.
That would be very cool. Yeah. So if that's of any interest to you, Tessa, this would be great. We'll do a whole show just about you, if you want to, or you can just come hang out with us, chat. You can do reading because you read very well. This I know firsthand, having listened to you read. And so either way, just in some way or
Oh, that
another,
is.
would be great. Would be great. That would be
Oh,
cool.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So we'll wait to hear from Otessa, and let's hope. We'll keep our fingers crossed. That will be fun. I want to talk about the first times, right? So for Don
Yes.
Juan, and he'll mention this later on, he'll say the first time something happens in a series, it is a blueprint, typically. I don't know
Hmm.
if he added the typically, but I'm adding in the typically. And he said it's a blueprint for the series to come. Now, when it happens in the first time, you don't know there's going to be a series, right? So you can only do it in retrospect. But still, when it comes to these things, it's something that happens. Don Juan would call them omens necessarily, or significant events, etc. We would call them anomalies. But it's not only with anomalies sometimes. Sometimes it's just that it's just part of a pattern. The pattern then is the anomaly once you see the pattern, right? And also the pattern can be very abstract. Like for instance, I'll give an example. I ordered an item, and it was an important item for me, and there was a bit of time pressure on it, and it didn't come, and I was waiting for it. Oh, it got delivered. Oh, where is it now? I buy and sell stuff, so I get a lot of deliveries, and in amongst all the 101 other things I do, by the way. Anyway, so I'm like, did it get mixed up with other items? And I spent quite a lot of energy looking for this, even though it said delivered, very clearly delivered right there to the shipping office, everything. No, I couldn't find it. And so eventually I messaged the company and said, look, I know it says delivered, but did they not perhaps deliver it somewhere else? And so there was some anomaly with the address. Okay. And so they said, all right, we'll check. And I never heard from them. Now it was debatable whether or not they had the right address or not. I mean, it seemed like it was sort of like it could have been okay, but it wasn't really their fault if it went missing. So it was a bit vague there. And I don't know, was it like 2 or 3 weeks went by, right, Beena? It felt like that. I don't know, maybe it's less time, but a significant amount of time, especially when you're dealing with customer service, the longest you'll typically wait on an email is like the next day or maybe the day after, especially if there's time differences involved. All right, anyway, it was way longer, like it was certainly a week at the minimum. And then I heard from them, okay, we've shipped your item. Wow. Okay. Oh, very cool. All right. So they must have gotten the thing back or something happened there and they reshipped the item, which I did eventually get. It still took a little while, but it came. So that was great. It's like, wow, that was pretty anomalous in that I wasn't expecting anything. I thought, well, it's just my bad luck, that the thing got delivered to somebody else and they kept it or the driver kept it or whatever, so I just sort of wrote it off and, I thought I'd try with a company, but like I said, the address wasn't clearly a mistake. So I just feel that they got it back, even though it said delivered, and they shipped it again. So either way, it was great. And that was just, it was like a good luck thing, right? It was unexpected good fortune. Let's put it that way, right? But it was as a result of effort and intent, because I really wanted that thing and I was really keen for the company to fix this and send it back, even though I couldn't have an expectation of doing so. It was an intent. Then later on, something happened and basically something that's very important to me got discontinued, right? And it's not like a delivery, it's like a service. And it got discontinued because of an anomalous thing, right? And the service, it's quite within their rights to discontinue it if they feel like it or not. It's like a thing that's beneficial to me, right? Anyway, so, and it's like, dang it, that's really, really unfortunate. Anyway, I messaged them and said, please, this is important to me. If you could you restore it? And so I'm asking for a favor, right? And nothing happens. And then I tried in a different way with other customers. And then just when I came back, like after it was a week exactly, actually, I tried it with a different customer service. Oh, okay. And they fixed it and restored. It's like, wow. So the first one was the blueprint for the second one. Now you'd say, what's the similarities? The similarities were that something went wrong in a peculiar, unexpected, inadvertent way. See, when you look at it in the abstract. Then I made an effort and got nothing from customer service, right? When the first time I said to them, they acknowledged they got my thing, but nothing happened, right? Then time went by that felt very long, even though it wasn't actually very long. It just felt long because of the importance. And then I connected with customer service again and things were remedied just like that, right? Unexpectedly remedied. And that was why the second thing, which was quite serious and quite important, I never was in despair, never lost hope, and never said, oh, wow, this is like really unfortunate. Nothing. I was in complete and utter trust. I knew it would get restored. Why? Because the blueprint had shown the way, right? All right, you might say that's kind of fanciful thinking and you're putting the facts together afterwards, but it helped me get through that period of getting that service restored. A very important service to us, right? It's a beneficial thing to us. And it's a bonus. It's like a gift thing, and when gifts are coming your way, you can't have an expectation of them being given all the time, right? It's up to the gift giver to continue or not. At any rate, so the one led to the other. And it's very, very significant because, to me, even the first one, I had no expectation. And when I did get it, it was bonus. It was like magical to me. At least that's how I think, right? Part of Moreness-Culture, you don't expect anything. Whatever you get is the greatest gift. So the second thing, which would really make a very big difference, the second thing, therefore, was very, very magical. And I had the intent and I had the confidence and absolute capital T trust that it would get remedied because of the first thing. Yeah, Beena, you were part of it all. So am I sharing the story correctly?
Yes. Big, huge
brilliant.
success story of self-trust. We do hear a lot of stories, success stories of law of attraction. People call it a law of assumption. But of course, to be precise, to be accurate, and to be genuine, It is a story of trust.
Exactly. Capital T, trust. Yes,
Yes.
very important. There's a big difference. Regular trust, mostly the way we use trust, it's more like hoping and wishing and please get me out of trouble, and I don't want to take responsibility for having messed up. It's that kind of a thing, yeah. Or like I'm just lazy. Trust that the universe will take care of me, right? And then of course it doesn't. Sometimes things work out, but generally it doesn't. And it doesn't matter. People do their nonsense anyway, or don't do what they need to do. So it's just typically trust is a camouflage or a band-aid or a salve for indulgence, and not particularly useful or good, right? And it's just like hope. Well, I trust that things are going to do. I haven't done anything on my side to make sure they won't work out good, right? But you're just hoping anyway. So it's really hope and wish, which is a very different thing to trust. Capital T trust is built on the foundation of impeccability, the whole way of impeccability, which means you've done everything that you can do. Yes, and in both those instances, I did everything that I can do. Now, there's a limit to what I can do, right? I mean, yes, I suppose I could send emails to the customer service every day. In the first instance, since it's a company, that may work, just annoy them or kind of be a nuisance until they respond. But in the second instance, that would have been counterproductive. That would have made it even worse. I would have guaranteed that I didn't get the things restored. All right. So in the first one, it would just be rude because I don't have a clear case. It's like maybe not, it's just bad luck, right? I mean, there was no definitiveness to it. So it was a real gift when they said, "Oh, we're shipping it back to you." It's like, wow, all right, cool. But in the second case, it led to that confidence in the second place because there was, I mean, what I did was, okay, I sent 2 emails, no response. Then I could not, even the second one was like, there were two different ways of approaching things. So, all right, it's one each. I could do no more, absolutely could not do any more. And so the trust, but then it's a long story how it worked out that there was another angle to come at things. And then that worked, right? Actually, I did there was the second, well, a completely different angle at it. All right, it was like and then that person was like a week later actually, and then they said, well, they'll escalate it. Okay, that usually is a good thing, but then nothing happened from that. And then when I came back again to follow up, then they said, okay, that's all done, taken care of, bing bang boom, all fixed up, like nothing had happened. No, that was just incredible. That's very important. And in other words, I'm saying that doing all you can do sometimes includes not doing, right? Which is quite hard to do. Like in a case like this, you just want to say, hey, what's happening? What's going on? And you don't hear back, and you've got to let sometimes it sit there. All right, after a certain time, then you got, but you can't just people are busy. Sometimes they're overwhelmed, and it can take a couple of weeks to respond. Or they might just be ignoring it because they are too busy. Either way, you have to judge each circumstance according to your own inner conscience and your impeccability, and not let your neediness, your desperation, your desire, the pressure, etc., that cannot be a factor. It cannot be a factor, and that's very difficult to do. Right? And that's what I'm saying. Impeccability is the key here, and sometimes not doing, very difficult. Very, very powerful stuff. Very, very powerful stuff. Before we continue reading, I want to say hello to another magical person that's joined us, Lubna. Magical Lubna. All right, yes. Lubna is one of those angels from the old time, from the time before the angels from the Biala series book. So Lubna is one of those. And then Samantha also joined us. So hello, Samantha. Good to see you here.
Samantha.
Brilliant. All right, Beena, please continue.
Okay, so where we were?
I think if you think properly, we read that, but read it again now.
Okay. If you think properly, you will remember. Sit on the floor and tell me the position in which you were when the birds flew to you. Close your eyes and make a line on the floor. I followed his suggestions.
I mentioned this yesterday, but this is very important, right?
Yes.
Carlos, it's a point that bears repeating. Is a very important because it's a strategy, a technique, a shift in thinking. It's absolutely crucial to Moreness culture. Don Juan wants Carlos to remember things which to him are very vague and nebulous and unclear. But, well, Don Juan also, to me, makes a bit of a mistake here. All right, mistake is a bad word, but comes at things in a way that's less effective. If Don Juan had said to Carlos, okay, tell me about it, and Carlos says, I don't remember. Don't worry about remembering it. We'll figure it out, right? Tell me what you do remember, and let's see how we can construct the information via inference, via implication, via deduction, and via prompting and cueing internally. Once you focus on the details you do know and emphasize those, you enlarge the nodes in your brain relevant to that, and they literally physically enlarge via emphasis, and you can, the neurons, the connections, the wires, everything gets enhanced, and then you start, suddenly you remember things you didn't remember before. My point is, if Don Juan had shifted it to a focus on emphasizing what is remembered and an emphasis on constructing the memory. For instance, if you go back to my famous example from perspective shifting, right? When we are looking to understand the floor plan of a house, but we can only look in through the windows. Yeah? So Carlos says, I don't know what the floor plan is. I didn't even go inside the house. All I did was look through a couple of windows. No problem, Carlos. If you just think about it a bit, figure it out, then take the information that you do have, put it together, you'll be able to construct that floor plan. Yeah, that's it. It's not that hard to do, really, right? But we have to have this awareness that it is possible to know things which we don't think we know, but yet we do know. Yeah, and I've had this with people, and they're like, well, how did you know that? I didn't even know that, because I constructed from what they said. They said a lot of things, and each thing that they said was a view through a window. I put it all together and constructed the floor plan. And the floor plan was what was going on inside them, and they were all amazed, like, wow, how did you know that? It's just a skill that you have to develop and practice it. So my point is, whenever you come up to a point of ignorance and not knowing, don't just say, well, I don't know, and give up there. There are ways to know what you don't know. And what you think you cannot possibly know, there are ways to know, right? It's a very, very powerful point here, right, Beena? This constructing of knowledge from the little bits that you have. You can get to more from the little. This is so intrinsic to Moreness culture. That's the Moreness, you see. Typically, Carlos says, well, okay, I didn't remember, and he struggled, I remember, but yeah, and that's it. If Carlos had gone with his way of things, they never would have gotten to this bonus stuff. And that's what Moreness is. Moreness is bonus. It's extra. It's that which you didn't think was available to you. That which you didn't even think was possibly available to you, right? Bonus, magical, extra, bonus. That's what Moreness is. Moreness is magical bonus. Yes, unexpected bonus, unassumed bonus, unbelieved bonus. Yeah, right, Beena? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Please continue. Please continue.
If you think properly, you will remember. Sit on the floor and tell me the position in which you were when the birds flew to you. Close your eyes and make a line on the floor. I followed his suggestions and determined point. Don't open your eyes yet, he proceeded. In which direction did you all fly in relation to that point? I made another mark on the ground. Taking these points of orientation as a reference, Don Juan interpreted the different patterns of flight the crows would observe to foretell my personal future or fate. He set up the 4 points of the compass as the axis of the crow's flight. I asked him whether the crows always followed the cardinal points to tell a man's fate. He said that the orientation was mine alone. Whatever the crows did in my first meeting with them was of crucial importance. He insisted on my recalling every detail. For the message and the pattern of the emissaries were an individual, personalized matter. There was one more thing he insisted I should remember, and that was the time of day when the emissaries left me. He asked me to think of the difference in the light around me between the time when I began to fly and the time when the silvery birds flew with me. When I first had the sensation of painful flight, it was dark, but when I saw the birds, everything was reddish, light red, or perhaps orange. He asked, that means it was late in the day. The sun was not down yet. When it is completely dark, a crow is blind with whiteness and not with darkness. The way we are at night, this indication of the time places your last
Indication,
emissaries at the
indication.
end. This indication of the time places your last emissaries at the end of the day. They will call you, and as they fly above your head, they will become silvery white. You will see them shining against the sky, and it will mean your time is up. It will mean you are going to die and become a crow yourself. Ah,
Very interesting. Yeah. So Don Juan, keep in mind, right? Don
yeah.
Juan is connected to an older world, this world of omens and sorcery, right? Which, as we'll see later, is a world and a time that where his lineage, which has passed on this knowledge that he has and built it and furthered it, it's not a static thing. Every one that gets every new member, anyway, we'll get to what they called later, adds to what's going on, right? So it's a continually evolving thing. But at some time, this point of sorcery and all this kind of stuff was very, very important. And it was a matter of survival because it was in those dark times where you could be killed for any reason whatsoever by those in charge, right? Especially in, early colonial times, right? When you were the native, the colonials, you weren't considered a person, right? You could be killed the same way as you'd kill any animal, right? It's quite a frightening psychology, but that was the reality back then. So those who were in that at the receiving end of this, they had to find other ways to deal with this incredible pressure because of the technological superiority of guns over bows and arrows, just that simple thing. So Carlos here comes with these funny questions again. Right, please continue, Beena.
But crows fly all day, not your emissaries, you fool. How about your emissaries, Don Juan? Mine will come in the morning. There will also be three of them. My benefactor told me that one could shout them back to black if one does not want to die. But now I know it can't be done. My benefactor was given to shouting and to all the clatter and violence of the devil's weed. I
All
know
right,
the
so
smoke is different.
Beena, look at the
Yes,
significance here. Yes, I know we're keen to
yes.
get through this, but there's a lot of extra significance. First of all, his benefactor was quite a wild fellow. He was a licentious fellow, and he was very much given to drama. He was an actor, Don Julian, or the Nawal Julian, right? And Nawal is going to come in later. It's a very particular term that means something very precise and very particular to Don Juan. Anyway, so the Nawal Julian, uh, he was in temperament and character pretty much the exact opposite of Don Juan. And Don Julian's benefactor, Don Elias, completely different again. Don Juan was lucky that he knew Don Elias and had lots of teaching and instruction for them, and they were much more aligned. Don Julian was quite a wild and in some ways a terrible fellow, but in his own mad logic, he was still impeccable, right? As we'll see, a very fascinating character. My point was, my benefactor told me that one could shout them back to black if one does not want to die. But now I know it can't be done. This is an upgrade of what his benefactor had told him. Now, his benefactor was given to shouting in the devil's weed. Now, Don Juan goes on to say, I know the smoke is different because he has no passion, he is fair. But I thought he was going to elaborate more on the shouting thing. My point is, he's saying that benefactor was mistaken in something. He was wrong. And now, whether or not it would have worked for the benefactor and not for Don Juan is unclear. Nonetheless, it is a point of evolution, right? His benefactor may have believed that you could shout this and really, really believed it enough so that he taught it on and still have been mistaken. But the fact that there was this upgrade, that is what to me is very significant. If you don't have a lineage that's open to upgrade, or a culture or any system that you're involved in, if it is not open to upgrading, you are going to have death. You're just going to stagnate, and sometimes stagnation is worse than death, right? It just goes nowhere. And you believe that you have the be all and end all, and you never upgrade because no, it's traditional. You can't touch tradition and all this nonsense. No, all you're doing is stagnating. If your system is one which gets you to complete and absolute freedom, enlightenment, whatever you want to call it, all right, then I'll say fine, keep it the same, don't change it. But there's always upgrades to communication, because what people in the past heard and you know, vocabulary, language is all different. So you've got to constantly keep with the times, right? You've got to update. Yeah, things change. Things change. This changing is very important. So it's a very significant point here, right, Beena? It really matters. Beena,
yes. Yes.
please keep going, Beena. Please keep going. And comment. Anybody, if you have any questions, please ask. Please comment, even if it's just to say hello, a little smiley face or anything. We love those. We love those. Right,
And to all that clatter and violence of the devil's feet, I know that smoke is different because he has no passion. He is fair. When your silvery emissaries come for you, there is no need to shout at them. Just fly with them as you have already done. After they have collected you, they will reverse directions and there will be 4 of them flying away.
Wow. Yeah, very interesting.
Sunday,
Very interesting.
10th of April, 1965. I had been experiencing brief flashes of disassociation or shallow states of non-ordinary reality. One element from the hallucinogenic experience with the mushrooms kept recurring in my thoughts, the soft, dark mass of pinholes. I continued to visualize it as a grease or an oil bubble, which began to draw me to its center. It was almost as if the center would open up and swallow me. And for every brief moment, I experienced something resembling a state of non-ordinary reality. As a result, I suffered moments of profound agitation, anxiety, and discomfort, and I willfully strove to end the experiences as soon as they began. Today, I discussed this condition with Don Juan. I asked for advice. He seemed to be unconcerned and told me to disregard the experience because they were meaningless, or rather valueless. He said the only experiences worth my effort and concern would be those in which I saw a pro. Any other kind of vision would be merely the product of my fears. He reminded me again that in order to partake of the smoke, it was necessary to lead a strong, quiet life.
It was necessary to lead a strong, quiet life. Now, later, Don Juan is going to say more specifically to live with impeccability, to live according to the warrior's way or way of impeccability. The same thing underlying it, yeah.
Personally,
well, we come at it from different angles, but it's the same underlying point, right? Way of impeccability is just a better name than warrior's way, because it's very hard to misinterpret way of impeccability as to what it means, but warrior's way can very easily be misinterpreted as being something involving violence or aggression, etc. Dominance.
Okay. Meaningless, where the meter. Okay. Valueless. He said the only experiences worth my effort and concern would be those in which I saw growth. Any other kind of vision would be merely the product of my fears. He reminded me again that in order to partake of the smoke, it was necessary to lead a strong, quiet life. Personally, I seemed to have reached a dangerous threshold. I told him I felt I could not go on. There was something truly frightening about the mushrooms.
Beena,
In going over, yes.
Beena,
Yes.
and this is to everybody. Lubna and Otessa in particular, I'm keen to hear your perspectives on this. I don't know if anybody else has joined us. I don't see them, but I'm keen to hear your perspective. Do you think, Beena and Otessa and Lubna, do you think that sobriety would be frightening to some people? And why?
Yes.
And why?
Okay.
I mean, it's kind of a
Because,
duh, but it needs to be elucidated. It needs to be spelled out.
okay, as per my understanding, sobriety can be uh, overwhelming and of course frightening for some, because being quiet is something without impeccability can be really frightening, because then you will hear your inner voice, and of course your inner dialogue, and of course you will observe more, which can be frightening for many. I don't know about like
Also,
exactly.
right. Also,
Yes.
sobriety is somewhat synonymous sometimes with the awful truth, right? If you're a king-size indulger, to quote Don Juan, right? King-size indulger, and he calls Carlos this, right? He says, Carlos, you're a king-size indulger. If you're a king-size indulger, of course, sobriety is going to be very, very scary for you, because it means you're going to have to give up all your indulgences, which you know they aren't good for you, but you cling to them. That's all you have. And also, when you're indulging, the awful truth is that you're usually running away from some kind of truth that you don't want to face. That's why you're doing the indulging, right? And it's typically those awful truths are more so in your belief than in actuality. So there's a big fear culture internally, right? An internal fear culture going on. So sobriety, very, very scary. And this is why for Carlos, he's, well, he's not like happy with the devil's weed necessarily, but he has positive experiences. He feels good and everything. That's how she gets you, right? He knows also that there's some negative there, because Don Juan has very clearly warned him about that negative, but it aligns with his personality. Don Julian, uh, Carlos's benefactor, right? Uh, he was a king-size indulger in his youth also, right? I mean, so he has very similar personality to Carlos, which is why he liked the devil's weed and, you know, the smoke. Different. It's just nice to understand. Just nice to understand that sobriety, which in its true sense, I don't mean sobriety, anything connected to any alcohol or substances, the original meaning of the word, which is sobriety is like a super serious or super sensibility when it comes to matters that matter, that comes to serious stuff. But sobriety, you can have sobriety in humor as well. It just means non-foolishness, the very other end of foolishness or idiocy or silliness or nincompoopry or knuckleheadedness, etc. Right? So sobriety is a very desirable quality. That's why I asked the question: do you think somebody could be afraid of sobriety? And even though it is so positive, the answer is still yes. I mean, it shouldn't be yes if you really like, well, how can you be afraid of sobriety? Isn't this something that everybody wants? Yeah, yeah. There are many things like this which you would imagine that people would want, but they don't. Why? Because messed up psychology, right? We unfortunately live in a culture in which messed up psychology is the default. The psychology of the superiority paradigm is utterly messed up. It's horrible. No, very, very amazing. All right, please continue, Beena. Please continue. I'm keen to hear comments, and please, keen to hear comments. Maybe they just came briefly and left, but anyway, we'll keep hoping to see comments.
Yes. In going over the images, I recall from my hallucinogenic experience, I had come to the unavoidable conclusion that I had seen the world in a way that was structurally different from ordinary vision. Wow. In other states of non-ordinary reality, I had undergone the forms and the patterns I had visualized were always within the confines of my visual conception of the world. But the sensation of seeing under the influence of the hallucinogenic smoke mixture was not the same. Everything I saw was in front of me in a direct line of vision. Nothing was above or below that line of vision. Every image had an irritating flatness and yet disconcertingly a profound depth. Perhaps it would be more accurate to say that the images were a conglomerate of
Conglomerate.
sorry, say it again.
Conglomerate. Second syllable
Okay.
emphasis.
Conglomerate of unbelievably sharp details set inside fields of different light. The light in the fields moved, creating an effect of rotation. After probably the exerting myself to remember, I was forced to make a series of analogies or similes. What is the word?
Similes, yes, similes, yeah.
Yes. Similes in order to understand what I had seen on one's face. For instance, looked as if he had been submerged in water. The water seemed to move in a continuous flow over his face and hair. It is so, it so magnified them. Wow. That I could see every pore in his skin or every hair on his head wherever I focused my vision. On the other hand, I saw masses of matter that were flat and full of edges, but did not move because there was no fluctuation in the light that came from them. Wow.
Yeah.
This is very interesting. I used to have dreams in my childhood where things do get loose their edges. And
Wow.
that was my understanding at the time. But actually, it was that everything used to, especially when I had fever, um, long-term fever. So the dreams were like everything becomes so huge that I could not see the sharp edges anymore. For me,
Wow.
they were not sharp edges anymore. Like if I'm just looking at towel, and the towel is like every thread is so huge and roundish for me. So this is
Wow.
and I used to see that okay, the the the, the ground is flat, like okay, having the waves and the ocean is flat. So that was my
Wow.
dream in fever time.
Wow.
Crazy dreams.
Wow. Wow. I suspect more of those are going to come to you and they're going to be significant. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this
And also so say hello to Christopher Abbott. Hello,
hello,
Christopher Abbott.
hello,
Always
hello.
good when you
Yes.
join us. Always good.
Oh
Hello, mate.
yes, it
Hello.
is. It is.
Hello,
So
mate.
today I'm
Hello.
I'm pausing a bit, and of course I'm just whenever something is grabbing me because
Yeah.
reading something and being aware of something,
It's
like
important.
some experiences like this is very
Yeah.
new to me,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, because yes, even if it is temporary, the state of being where he was getting out of like under the effect of mushrooms or smoke or anything, even if it is temporary, it is enough to change your perspective to see the reality around you.
Yeah.
Once you
That's the
experience
key.
something,
That's what we want to do. We want to learn to be able to perceive reality differently because there are many ways to perceive reality.
yes,
Reality in reality is an interpretation, not a reality. It's a nice quote. I'll add it to my quote
say it
file.
again, say it again.
Reality in reality is an interpretation, not a reality.
Yes, yes. once
Yeah.
once you understand that, you're like, oh yes, okay, yes. Wow.
That's a
In
very
in
good
my
quote.
childhood, I saw someone who used to just put a piece of cloth, a yellow piece of cotton, uh, muslin, I guess, on their face, and suddenly their voice used to change.
and they start telling people about their stuff, like which he might not be supposed to be not aware of. Um,
Ah,
so that was a thing, but it was kind of like the family was keeping it secret that okay, yeah, so they are going to
interesting.
meet that and having this event. Once I got a chance, thanks to my granny, that I got a chance that okay, I went there. I was not impressed at all.
Yeah.
No, I was curious to know that, okay, why they are doing all these things, because I was a bit irritated by the way they were using this, like, okay, hiding the face and change the voice. Because for me, even when I was a child, I was not getting it. Once you are aware of, if you are aware of something, you can
Yeah.
tell it directly. Why to
Yeah.
hide? Why to have all these okay,
Exactly,
I must be
exactly.
respectful towards
BS,
that.
BS was not part of your awareness. You didn't understand the necessity of BS in some situations.
I was not understanding all these things. And then the second time again something happened, and the guy, I was a kid at the time, and so he just hold my hand and see, look into my eyes, and then he's supposed to be a blind person,
Yeah,
and then he
yeah.
says, okay, look into my eyes. Have you seen? And of course I was not seeing anything. He was trying to impress me, and
Interesting.
then he says, have you seen a lion coming? And I said no, and then I start staring back.
Wow.
That was the time I said, okay, now you will see
Yeah.
something. So then I started staring back, because I had very big eyes. When my face was very
Yeah.
small, I was almost looked like an alien at the time. So when I
Yeah. You
started
look like
staring
anime.
back,
You look like anime.
so he
Yeah.
said, okay, now go, no problem. Okay.
Interesting. Interesting. Beena, you'll have
Yes.
to tell the story again another time. I want to finish reading because chapter 11 is just on the next page.
Perfect.
And we've only got
Perfect.
5 more minutes. And I think we'll make
Okay.
it. So
I
yeah, let's
asked on
finish.
Juan what were the things that I had seen. He said that because this was the first time I was seeing as a crow of the images were not clear or important, and that later on, with practice, I would be able to recognize everything. I brought up the issue of the difference I had detected in the movement of light. Things that are alive, he said, move inside, and a crow
Very
can
important.
easily see when something is dead or about to die because the movement has stopped or is slowing down to a stop. A crow can also tell when something is moving too fast, and by the same token, a crow can tell when something is moving just right. What does it mean when something is moving too fast or just right? It means a crow can actually tell what to avoid and what to seek. When something is moving too fast inside, it means it is about to explode violently or to leap forward, and a crow will avoid it. When it moves inside just right, it is a pleasing sight, and a crow will seek it. Do rocks move inside? No, not rocks or dead animals or dead trees, but they are beautiful to look at. That is why crows hang around dead bodies. They like to look at them. No light moves inside them. But when the flesh rots, doesn't it change or move? Yes, but that is a different movement. What a crow sees then is millions of things moving inside flesh with a light of their own, and that is what a crow likes to see. It is truly an unforgettable sight. Have you seen it yourself, Don Juan? Anybody who learns to become a crow can see it. You will see it yourself.
Yeah.
At this at this point, I asked Don Juan the unavoidable question: did I really become a crow?
It
I
is
mean,
only
would anyone?
unavoidable to you, Carlos.
Of course. Well, Phil. I mean, would anyone seeing me have thought I was an ordinary crow? No, you can't think that way when dealing with the power of the allies. Such questions make no sense. And yet, to become a crow is the simplest of all matters. It is almost like frolicking. It has little usefulness, as I have yet to become a crow. Okay,
No, you skipped a line
as
there. You
I have
skipped a line there.
already, yes, as I have already
It has,
told you,
yeah.
the smoke is not for those who seek power. It is only for those who crave to see.
Right, so
I
here we
learned to
have the first time where Don Juan is using see to mean something different. And as we're going to
yeah,
see later on, This means capital P, perceiving, right? And it's a much
Yes.
better word to say for those who crave to perceive, because to see is
Yes.
connected to the visual. Seeing, as Don Juan means it, is done with all of your senses and more, all of our known senses and more. All right, so it's very important. And
Yes.
also power. Look, power is also italicized. This is capital P power, not little p power, which is essentially just dominance over others. Right? No, that's not real power, right? So also capital P power. Right. Anyway, please continue.
I learned to become a crow because these birds are the most effective of all. No other birds bother them, except perhaps larger, hungry eagles. But crows fly in groups and can defend themselves. Men don't bother crows either. And that is an important point. Any man can distinguish a large eagle, especially an unusual eagle, or any other large, unusual bird. But who cares about a crow? A crow is safe.
Mm.
It is ideal in size and nature. It can go safely into any place without attracting attention. On the other hand, it is possible to become a lion or a bear, but that is rather dangerous. Such a creature is too large. It takes too much energy to become one. One can also become a cricket or a lizard or even an ant. But that is even more dangerous because large animals prey on small creatures.
Oh.
I argued that what he was saying meant that one really changed into a crow or a cricket or anything else. But he insisted I was misunderstanding. It takes a very long time to learn to be a proper crow, he said. But you did not change, nor did you stop being a man. There is something else. Can you tell me what the something else is, Don Juan? Perhaps by now you know it yourself. Maybe if you were not so afraid of becoming mad or of losing your body, you would understand this marvelous secret. Perhaps you must wait until you lose your fear to understand what I mean.
Right. I see I mentioned earlier, I was talking about this Carlos, did I really change? It's because to him, this fear of losing his mind or being insane, which is a big fear also related to the superiority paradigm and self-importance. Because if I believe the stuff, somebody else is going to say, but that's insane that you believed it. And then by implication, you were just stupid. Right? See how it all ties together, trace it back to the superiority paradigm. Very easy to understand the motivations of this fear. And also, basically, my comment, because I have to go, I wanted to say real quick on that experience of yours, right, with people that you saw it clearly as a child, and the other people were buying into it. Why? Because
Yes.
none so easy to deceive as those so desperately willing to believe.
Oh,
Oh, you were not
yes.
desperately willing to believe anything. You were just truth is truth. That's it. But when you're desperately willing to believe, you have to have the trappings, and then you buy into it, and you believe because you are desperately willing to believe. And it's very easy to deceive. Yeah. So don't ever be desperately willing. Don't ever be desperately willing. All right, we gotta go. We gotta
Oh,
go. Bye
yes.
bye, everybody. Bye bye, everybody.
Eh,
Thank you for being here. And we'll see you tomorrow. No closing from Beena. We're gonna go right away. Yeah, that's it.
Yes. Okay, bye for now.
Yeah, bye bye, everybody. Thank you. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye.